Marriage Interrupted.
Marriage and ADHD.
I'm Felicia Horton.
I'm Jonathan.
Jonathan and I are a couple where one spouse has ADHD, the other does not. We are not certified, licensed, we're not therapists. We're just a couple who found out later in life that one of us has ADHD.
You're my therapist once in a while, though.
No, I'm also your nemesis sometimes. So,
and other times you're just the opposite.
Just the opposite. It's not easy. We know that. That's why we're doing this. That's why we wrote the book, Marriage Interrupted, Marriage and ADHD. We did that because we know it's not easy. And Jonathan and I really dug deep to decide if we wanted to share who we are, because sometimes Jonathan's ADHD is right in the middle. He's got some of the symptoms that show themselves, but we're functional. Other times, very little. You know, that doesn't happen often, where he can go days where nothing is forgotten and nothing is, it's just better. And then there are the times that it's through the roof.
And those the fun times, though.
Oh my gosh, it keeps me on my toes.
I will admit, last night was another ADHD moment in my life.
It was a big time one.
Can I explain it real quick?
Sure.
This is how quick ADHD happens. Innocently going to the pizza parlor to pick up some pizza, and it was going to be a wait. So I waited in the car for a little bit, and then it was about time for it to go back in. And I got out and I closed the door. And just as I'm closing the door, I realized I don't have the keys with me. So I'm stranded, and my phone was in the car. So I'm stranded for about 40 minutes before I finally let somebody let me use their cell phone to call, and my partner here came and rescued me.
So, and it shouldn't have locked. The fob was in the car. We don't know why it locked. Either way, that's...
But was that an ADHD moment?
And again, we say this on our videos. If that's the only time it's happened, it happens. I did that not long ago. I left the car running with the keys in it. I had a crazy busy day. I was running late. I got misplaced, lost. Anyway.
So maybe you do too have ADHD.
But the whole point of that is, how often does that happen? How many times have you needed to get the keys out of your car? It's actually in the book about how you've had to multiple times use your MacGyver techniques to get back in your vehicle.
I'm very good at breaking into my truck. So here's one of my tools.
Well, we're not there yet.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Because what we're going to talk about today is when ADHD has its spikes, what do we do? We made a big decision not long ago that Jonathan did not want to take medication. So that's what we want to talk about today, to medicate or to not medicate. We're not opposed to somebody medicating. We made that decision on our own for many reasons, and we're going to talk about what we do instead today. But one of the things I wanted to ask Jonathan to share with you, because from the non-ADHD perspective, we want to make sure we have the ADHD perspective. So when you are having, like yesterday was a very good day. It was very little ADHD spikes that interrupted the day until that. What do you think, and not just yesterday, what do you think in general spikes your ADHD or your ADHD behavior?
Yesterday, I guess it was an example of just not being aware of something.
But okay, yes, you were in a different world and you weren't paying attention. And yes, that was, but the times that your ADHD spikes, from what I see, and please, again, you need to make sure that's my perspective. We need your perspective.
I think it has a lot to do with our busy schedule. Sometimes I have no idea how we're going to finish everything that we need to finish or do everything we need to do.
And when that happens, what does that create within you?
Anxiety.
Right. So this is what I see. And again, if you don't agree, this is your chance to speak to the whole world about it, is anxiety creates your ADHD symptoms to spike. So a lot of times that's around money. Often it's around money. Your ADHD spikes. One of your spikes is you shut off. When you don't know how to handle things, you just shut off. So what I noticed, I don't know if there's something else that you've noticed besides anxiety that spikes it. I'm sure there's other things, but
Well, in our world, I think our anxiety a lot of times is you do partially, I'm not in control of when my funds come in a lot, and that raises my
Right.
anxiety.
right.
Being a self-employed person, I guess I could say, contractor. I really truly never know when I'm going to get paid.
So,
It's not
but
like
in
I
general,
get
those are the
paid every
details, right?
week. So yeah, there's some anxiety. So it's a lot of budgeting and planning and trying to budget and plan on getting things paid and funded, not knowing when I'm going to get funded. So that causes a lot of my anxiety.
So, but in general, anxiety in itself of any type, if we're having an off day, if the kids are having an off day, if you're having car trouble or you're locked out of your car, that tends to spike the anxiety. And the anxiety tends to spike
Definitely.
the
Last
ADHD.
night was major anxiety.
So with that, right, why doesn't he medicate? Why doesn't he do what a lot of people do and just stay on the medicine? Why did you choose not
Some
to
people
medicate?
say, why don't you medicate? Maybe you just forget everything. Those days are long gone when I've self-medicated.
Yeah, that wasn't our topic
That's
today.
it.
That's not our topic.
High school and college days, that's
No.
done.
And that's a common thing amongst youngsters is self-medicating, especially if you're undiagnosed. How do I control this? But why did we decide, or you decide? It was a decision for both of us, actually. We did discuss it. I researched in great length. Why don't you want to medicate?
I think personally, my DNA has an addictive personality. So I think if I were to try to medicate with anything, my fear is that my body would get addicted to it. Whatever
With
it
our
is.
research, one of the things that we found also besides that, yes, that is definitely a big part of our conversation that we had.
And my fear.
Yes, fear is the other thing. Fear goes with anxiety, but fear also spikes ADHD.
And on the other side, I would truly just like to do things naturally.
Right, and we try to, in our home, do things as naturally as possible.
Homeopathic processes.
So one of the things that we found, though, when we investigated and researched into medication, is the difficulty of getting the right doses and that process and how long it takes. And often therapists, not always, but often therapists give you the most and then take you down, opposed to give you a little more each time. That was a concern, that process. And within that process, in discussing how that looks, Jonathan's like, well, he doesn't even take Advil, Tylenol. He doesn't take anything. So we decided not to. So here we are. Those are our reasons. And the reason I wanted to bring up that,
And
we're
I've
not
read a lot of
poo-pooing those
horror
that do.
stories about people taking, and
We have.
they get majorly depressed and
Right. So those are our decisions. Now, for those that are taking it, kudos. I mean, if it works for you, I think it's great. There are many, many, many days I would just wish, what if he just took medicine and then a lot of this would go away and life would be a lot smoother, right? I mean, that might sound horrible, but we have those days where I don't know how we're going to get through this. So, but because we decided that was our choice not to, we needed to come up with what are we going to do? What are some of the things that we're going to do to help regulate ADHD? Now, the difference is when you have medication, and there's a shortage now, and there's that issue, which is different. But when you take it every day, you have to remember to take it. That's an issue for someone with ADHD. But if you are taking it every day, it's consistent. Those with ADHD, if you give them a pattern and it's part of this process, it's a little bit easier for them. What we do is not a pattern. It is not an everyday thing. So that in itself, the caveat when we start here with this description, it's not always applied when needed. But some of the things that we do for ADHD, do you want to share some of the things that we've done naturally?
as far as
helping you when you're feeling those things. You want to talk about the meditation, the EFT, the eating stuff, exercise, any of those things?
Yeah, tea. I love tea. I drink a lot of tea. Drink tea.
Okay.
I love coffee, but I don't drink coffee anymore.
Why do you think tea helps? What about tea?
It's for me feels healthier, and
How does it help you with your ADHD?
it's calming.
Okay. So a lot of the teas Jonathan drinks are the chamomiles and the peppermints and the spearmints and the things that tend to be more relaxing.
If I have a tea that has too much caffeine in it, I definitely notice it.
Yes, he does not do well. Now, a lot of people with ADHD, you give them caffeine, they fall asleep and it relaxes them. That's very common. Jonathan's reaction is not that. He tends to have trouble with it. The other thing that we started doing, not consistent unfortunately, but when we do, is meditate. Jonathan does not do well self-meditating. He does much better with guided meditation. Do you agree?
But I have gotten better at my breathing exercises. My breathing exercises, I believe, helps me tremendously.
So a lot of times
deep breathing exercises.
When I'm anxious, if someone says just breathe, that makes me more anxious. But it actually, Jonathan, it helps you quite a bit when you take that and you practice that breathing.
As humans, though, we don't breathe right.
True.
Everybody needs to do some sort of deep breathing. You don't use most of your lungs every day, and we need to.
So breathing definitely helps. Meditation, guided meditation.
That calms me down too, because then you concentrate on your breathing, and everything else just kind of disappears.
So it's a big one that he does do consistently. We also do EFT. Do you want to explain what emotional freedom technique is?
No.
No, you don't. Why not?
Because I don't remember what it is.
You don't remember what EFT is?
Oh, the tapping.
Tapping.
I didn't know what it was called.
I'm sorry. We've been tapping. We've been doing EFT, where you do affirmations and you talk through and you.
That does work once in a while, but for me, not all the time.
Although it's very interesting when Jonathan will say that right now, right, as the guided EFT. But if you watch Jonathan, he will tap. He taps. He'll be talking to you, and he'll be.
I want it to work. That's what it is.
He subconsciously will tap sometimes, which I find interesting that's healing.
Well, you know what's funny is I used to tap before you started me tapping, and I used to do it with water because just water,
and didn't even know. So that does help him as well. Good. The other thing that we do is we walk.
Walking is good.
Walking really helps. The more we walk.
Bicycling is good.
Yes. So just light exercise. The heavy exercise doesn't seem to be the answer. Jonathan's never enjoyed that. It's the light, calming exercises that help. And then eating. I will tell you right now, I know when Jonathan is going through stuff. Jonathan has chocolate, dark chocolate, but chocolate stashed throughout the house. One of our canisters has dark chocolate raisins and almonds or whatever you have in the one
Dark chocolate is good for you, though. It's healthy.
But it's chocolate. He has some in the freezer. He has some in the fridge, right? So I know when I see him sneaking more.
That's my vice.
Well, that and ice cream.
Do you want me to have an affair or dark chocolate? You take your pick.
I don't think they can be compared. But his eating habits, he tends to have sugar. So for me, what I want to do is when he's eating sugar, I know we're in for a bit of a spike there. So, but to him, it's calming, and so
really calming.
But by regulating that seems to help regulate the ADHD. So when we don't do as much chocolate, it seems to help. Eating certain foods seem to help or create, right? So regulating eating, right? So those are the few things that Jonathan is doing. Personally, like anything, regulating it, doing it more often. Same thing with medication if you're off of it, right? So sticking with his teas. He's big on drinking a lot of the teas that he feels are calming. The teas, the breathing are two of the most helpful. And then Jonathan was doing really well with his supplements that I got. I have quite a few that I've read up on. I'm not going to mention them and recommend them because I'm not
So
licensed to do
vitamins
so.
are definitely should be
But I recommend looking into that.
diagnosed by a professional.
Well, I mean, vitamins are vitamins and
prescribed by a
supplements.
professional.
Vitamins aren't always prescribed, but that's something for you to look into. But so breathing is a big one, and tea, and then that's for him on his own, and on my and EFT and the tapping. But on my end of it, I do my best to help with preparing and having the right foods available around the house to help too.
What helps the most truly is just avoiding any confrontation at all. Just forget it.
Because that's how life works. Oh my goodness.
Sweep it all under the carpet. That's what us good Norwegians do.
Yes, he does that quite
just
well.
Sweep it all under the carpet and it'll go
not
away.
There until I start tripping on it. I'm Felicia Horton.
I'm Jonathan.
And this is A Marriage Interrupted.
Have a great day.